If you're looking to get the best possible quality from your GoPro Mission 1 Pro, which we've been using for a couple of weeks now, you realize that actually some of the settings seem quite confusing because you have to choose between bit depth, frame rate, resolution, aspect ratio, bit rate, codec, and Chroma subsampling. Which settings are actually good and which one gets you the best picture quality, because it's not so simple as you think. So if you're looking to get the best possible picture quality from your camera and trying to figure out which one is actually the least taxing on your computer, whether you're using Apple, Intel, AMD, or Nvidia, then this is the video that's for you. If you're using the GoPro Mission 1 Pro or some other action cameras, this is going to be helpful for you. Let's talk. So in case you don't get to the end of the video and you don't see my view on this GoPro Mission 1 Pro, let me tell you this much. This is the best action camera I have ever used. I've used it so much recently. It's absolutely amazing. The amount of power this tiny little guy packs, wow. So let's get to the nitty-gritty how to get the best quality out of the Mission 1 Pro. Let's talk about the most simple thing, which is frame rate. This should be understandable for everybody, but this GoPro Mission 1 has lots of different frame rates. It can go up to 960 frames per second, but we should put a little asterisk in there because that is only available for 10 seconds at a very specific resolution. But in essence, each one of these frame rates is actually possible, but not at all resolutions. Before we talk about resolution, we need to talk about aspect ratio. 16:9 that you are very familiar with. 9:16, which is basically that, but just the other way. And then we have 4:3, which is also called open gate. And the amazing thing about this is if you're looking to reframe your shot in post-production, then this open gate allows you to kind of have both of these in one, because 16:9 would be something like that. And then 9:16 would be something like this. It's a bit wonky. So shooting 4:3 gives you the most flexibility to reframe in post-production. It comes with a cost of not being able to shoot at all resolution and frame rates because you're capturing a larger part of the sensor, meaning so much more processing power. I think 4:3 is going to be the most favorite for all. I want to talk about this here. 9:16. I think most people should not shoot this aspect ratio because what that does is massively limit what resolutions, frame rates you can do because it crops the sensor this way. Instead of doing that, you've got GoPro mounting like this. Instead of shooting your camera this way and having 9:16 cropped on the sensor, just do this, shoot with the camera this way, and voila, you've got a much better aspect ratio. In fact, now you can shoot 4:3 this way, which means it gives you even more flexibility to reframe in post. So the 9:16, I don't really get that, and I don't think most people should not shoot that way, especially if it's so easy to move this GoPro one way or the other way. Let's talk about resolution, because this GoPro Mission 1 Pro can shoot 8K up to 60 frames per second. That is insane, but there's a little bit of an asterisk. If you remember these aspect ratios on the side there, it's not available in every single aspect ratio. There are lots of different resolutions that you can shoot with. So let's start with the smallest resolution and then work our way up. The lowest resolution it can shoot is 2K, which interestingly is framed as 1080p. But if you're shooting it at 16:9 aspect ratio, you can go up to 960 frames per second. That comes with an asterisk, and the asterisk says you can only shoot that in burst modes. But bear in mind, if you shoot 960 frames per second for 10 seconds, that is 9,600 frames. If our timeline is 30 FPS, that takes us to 320 seconds of timeline. 5 minutes and 20 seconds of footage. Every 10 seconds you shoot 960 frames per second. So you don't actually want to shoot that very long amount of time because otherwise it's impossible to find later on back what you actually tried to shoot because you've got so much footage. But if you want to get ultra slow-mo, you have to shoot 1080p. And in order to do that, GoPro has done something interesting as well. They have labeled video and slow-mo separately. So in order to go to that 960, even though that is still video, you're gonna have to go to slow-mo and choose the burst slow-mo option, which runs for 10 seconds, 16:9, 960 frames per second. If you want to shoot 16:9, you can go lower as well, 480, 240, 120, 60, 30, and even 24 frames per second if you wanted to. 9:16, you can only shoot 60 and 30 if you want to go vertical, but again, I wouldn't recommend shooting like that. Just move your GoPro sideways and voila, you have all of these options above available. Interestingly, if you want to shoot 1080p, 4:3 open gate aspect ratio is not available. Moving on to 1440p, which is slightly higher than 1080p. We've got a little bit more resolution, but 16:9, you're not able to shoot. 9:16, not again, only 4:3. And I think this 4:3 is one of the best options that most people should shoot at when they want the best combination of resolution and ultra slow-mo, because you're able to shoot 480 frames per second open gate, which is insane. You can't do that in 4K, which you'll see in a minute, but this is a very, very nice option. So you have some reframe available also in post-production. Next, what we have available is 4K. And in 4K, you have, again, different options. 16:9, we can shoot up to 240 frames per second, which is actually really, really good. Bear in mind, if you want to shoot open gate, here, we're only limited to 120 frames per second. So if you know your framing in the post, going 16:9, you get 240 frames per second, which is the best. Again, 16:9, only 30 frames per second. If you want to shoot that vertically, I would not recommend that. Move it sideways and suddenly you have all these different options available. And then finally, you have 8K resolution available. You can shoot 8K at 60 frames per second. So just a tip here, if not all the resolutions available on the video menu, make sure you check out the slow-mo menu because they might be available over there. You can't shoot 9:16 on the sensor, but again, just move your GoPro sideways and then boom, you've got everything available. You can shoot open gate with the 8K, but only up to 30 frames per second, no slow-mo in there. But just a little tip here, if you are exporting your video at 24 frames per second timeline, then shooting 30 frames per second, you can get a little slow-mo in there. You can slow it down, not half the speed, but a little bit. Now, resolution is sorted, and these are like the main specs that most people know, but there are so many other bits about this camera and the settings that you should actually change in order to get the best quality. Let's talk about bitrate. Bitrate is the amount of data that this camera captures every single second, and obviously, the higher the bit rate, the better the picture quality, because it just captures a lot more data about the different colors and luma values, the brightnesses, saturation, and all of these things. And the higher the bit rate is, the better picture quality you will see. You'll see less pixelating images because it's got just more data in there. If you put lower bit rate and higher resolution, then you're going to start to see more like pixelated, like square blocks around the screen because you don't have enough information to produce a beautiful image. The downside here is if you go in higher bit rate, your file sizes are going to be very, very large. Whatever SD card you're going to put in there, it's not going to be able to record as long of a time. But there are 3 options inside the settings that you can choose. There is max, high, and standard. Standard is the lowest, high is somewhere in the middle, and then max is obviously the best option you can go for. And I highly recommend keeping the bitrate maximum at all times, just because it will look less like action camera footage and just gives you more data to work with. Bitrate is measured in megabits per second, not megabytes, but megabits per second. But interestingly, your actual cards that you put inside this GoPro are measuring megabytes per second, and sometimes that may seem confusing. So for example, this is a V30, which means it is 30 megabytes per second, and there are 8 bytes in each bit, which means that It's able to record up to 320 megabits per second, if that makes sense. So I don't know why the camera has to tell you megabits, but the card's in megabytes. That can be a little bit confusing, but let me know if you want me to do another guide about the different SD cards and their speeds in order to understand how to get the best quality. Bitrate is pretty simple. Keep it as high as possible. When talking about bits, there is other bit that we need to talk about, which is bit depth. And that is a huge, huge difference in here. Bit depth, think of this as gradient and the amount of colors there is available. Most of the time we're 8-bit, and inside the camera setting you can choose 8-bit or 10-bit. There is also 12-bit, but I just want to show you how much of a difference there is between 8 and 10. Obviously, the higher the number, the better this is here. And I highly recommend you choose 10-bit at all times. Don't use 8-bit because your footage will look so much better when you're shooting 10-bit. Now, when we're shooting 8-bit video, then we are capturing roughly just over 18 million colors. But when moving it over to 10-bit, suddenly we have 1 billion colors available. That is insane amount more. Think of this as a gradient between different bit depths. So if you are shooting, let's say, a sunset in the sky, or you've got a sky where there's lots of different colors of blue towards yellow gradient, then the more bits you have, the smoother the gradient is, and you see less of banding options where you see, oh yeah, there's some weird line in there because there is just not enough colors in that section to just capture, if that makes sense. So imagine if this is 8-bit, it's just an example here. 8-bit, you'll have some colors here, but in between there is no real colors like available. So in order to do a gradient, you'll have these steps between the different colors. Now imagine if you have 10-bit, now you have all these different colors available in the middle there, but there's still some gaps in there, and that's where 12-bit comes in. You've got just more gradient and more colors available. I highly recommend choosing 10-bit inside your video settings, not 8-bit, to get the best picture quality possible. Now, two final options to choose from, and they kind of go together because they have different hardware implications or requirements. The codec that we're using and the Chroma subsampling. You might have heard H.265 10-bit 422. You're like, wait a second. Remember the gradient that we had there in bit depth? Okay, 10-bit footage, 422, H.265, that is very, very taxing on your hardware, and more cameras are shooting that type of content. It's good quality. This camera right now is shooting that type of footage, but what option should you choose inside there to get the best quality? And GoPro has actually given you a huge benefit here because they have pre-selected basically an option that would just work for everybody. So whether you are using Intel CPU, GPU, or AMD CPU, GPU, or NVIDIA GPU, now CPU as well, or Apple, then this will work for all of you. But I want to explain this still, so in case you're using other cameras or later you come back and you hear these terms, you understand how this works. So for codecs, there is H.264 and 5 if we're talking about just compressed footage. And the way this works is these codecs have different compressions, and in order to make these codecs, imagine a timeline of pictures, and this is your video codec where we're shooting, let's say 30 frames per second, okay? There's lots of pictures in the middle. But here's the thing, if you're even looking at this frame in here, there is sides in the corner like this section all in here, and this section in here. There's nothing moving in there. So why do you keep as much information on the corners of this image as well as you have in the middle here where my face is moving, the lighting and the gradient, everything's moving in the middle here. But these corners don't change whatsoever. So this is waste of space. That's why we have these different codecs. The compression here is looking at all these different pictures that you had on the timeline, and it's looking at, let's say if you want to show this picture here, it compresses the before and after bits around in the image that don't need to keep any data. So why don't you keep the first frame of that corner in there, and then in the middle, keep another one of the frames. And then if you want to show it still in there, because nothing has changed, we can save a lot of data when capturing the footage, which is really, really good. We have smaller file sizes and essentially still the same quality. But there is a downside. In order to play back H.264 or 5, it's very taxing on the hardware. Because in order to look now one footage, or let's say you're scrubbing on the timeline, where was it where I fell, with my bike and I did a front flip? You're trying to scrub through, but now because you're not just looking at individual pictures, in order to look at one picture, the codec or the computer has to look at a whole group of pictures, which means that if you're scrubbing through, it's scrubbing through hundreds or thousands of pictures at the same time, which is really, really taxing, unless you have hardware acceleration for that, which means that inside your computer, there's a little chip that understands how to read back these big groups of pictures. Its only job is to have exactly the same, let's say, equation, how it got compressed to now uncompress it, and it's very good at playing that back. In order to do that with the chip, that chip has certain combination of codecs, Chroma subsampling, and bit depth in order to do that. And H.265, which is also called HEVC or High Efficiency Video Codec, that's inside there, inside GoPro Video, it actually tells you HEVC, which means H.265. That is even more compressed codec. And now it's figuring out even more complicated of how can we save even more data while capturing more details, if that makes sense. So the file sizes can be even smaller and our video quality can be even bigger, but the downside is even bigger. It's even harder to play that back. GoPro, like I mentioned, has chosen a codec that works best for all. So what is that codec? That codec is H.265. Like all the footage that you're capturing with that is H.265, which means just as small file sizes as possible with a possible quality. But 420 Chroma subsampling, I checked that, and every single codec, I went into the computer and checked every single one. You can check it in your video editing software. Everything is 420, and I highly recommend the bit depth to be 10-bit. Always shoot 10-bit, 420, H.265, and that allows you to have the best picture quality, because the secret here is 420, H.265, 10-bit, you have hardware acceleration on every single hardware, whether you're AMD, Intel, Nvidia, or Apple, it plays back super, super smooth. Previously, you maybe were able to choose 422 10-bit H.265, but that would have been only a couple of options of hardware are able to play that back very, very smoothly. And you might put it in your computer and like, whoa, that is slow, I need a new computer. Well, not necessarily, maybe you just need to change a different codec. Obviously, there are downsides here, that choosing 420 rather than 444 or 422, because you'll just have a little bit better data and color information available the way you compress the whole footage. But I think this is a really good option that GoPro has done to give everybody an equal chance to just work with the footage and give you the best possible outcome. But remember, 10-bit, highest possible bitrate, and H.265, that's what we want. Now, if no one's shown you this online before, I'm going to show you a little bit through the menus, just so you're aware, if you're getting this camera, what to actually do and how to move around it, because I've been using this for a few weeks. I took it to Computex, I used it a ton of lots of different things. And I like what GoPro's done here because it's very, very intuitive now for users to use this. So if you want to choose between modes, you swipe from left or right, it moves you to exactly the same place. And you've got all these different modes that you can choose from. My main mode was video in there. Just click on it and then there's video. Or what I also like to do was time lapse. This is a really nice thing. You just put it on a time lapse, press go, and it automatically. So I pressed it stationary and I just wanted video. So it does video for me, 4:3, 8K as well. That's really nice. So you get a really nice time lapse. And as you can see, it's cropped it on the sides, which means that I'm shooting 4:3. And obviously not, I could shoot it 16:9 as well. And when going 16:9, look, you can see it fills the whole screen because that screen is 16:9. But I highly recommend shooting 4:3 because you've got the most options in post when shooting it like that. If you slide down from the top or swipe down, you've got a few quick options available. If you want to, like sometimes the front display, I wanted to change that or something like that, I could just easily turn it off or something like that in there. And then you can just swipe through different things in there, as well as reset your memory card and things like that, and work on audio settings. Now, if you swipe from the bottom, it takes you to gallery and you can see different options of, you know, oh, here, that's where I can look back at my footage, something that happened. But if you want to choose the settings, you just tap on the bottom there and you have all these options available. Even on the sides there, you think, oh, look, resolution, aspect ratio, things like that. And then if you want to change your lens on the side, you can go wide lens or a little bit more zoomed in, depending how do you like this, or interval is going to be auto. So just some more settings available. I'm going to show you the settings underneath as well. So when you go into video settings, first thing is aspect ratio, then you have resolution. Sometimes if you want to shoot certain resolution, it might not be available. So clicking on 8K, you can see I can't choose 60, only 30 is available, for example. There are other bits available here, the capture mode, like tracking and hindsight. So if you wanted to always kind of record, and when you press go, it records some of it before, you can do that. Other options available, but here, that's one of the main things that I like to change. As you can see, bit depth here is 8. I want to choose 10-bit because that gives you a lot more options. If you want this to apply to all settings, we're just going to press apply all. And even if we go to different like resolutions, it saves it in there as well. Bitrate high is not good enough. We're going to go maximum and we're going to apply it to all as well. I want the maximum bit depth to get the maximum possible quality. So image tuning, I've always left it at balanced. That's how I get the best. I've left it in auto boost as well, in terms of stabilization, how that works. And the color, if you want to, you can shoot it obviously natural, or you can actually go to log and shoot it in log there as well, or have HDR playback. But I'm not using this as much there as possible. I've left the denoise at high as well, but that means that on lower light situations, just is not as crisp. So maybe put this to medium. Sometimes if you can't change it, you can just take the apply to all off, and then you can shoot like, okay, vibrant or cinematic or GoPro log 2. If you want to match it or get the possible best dynamic range, then shoot log in there. But I've left it at natural. That seems to be the best to me. I think GoPro has absolutely nailed it with this one. I have the Hero 13 as well, and this is a huge upgrade to all of this, plus picture quality, everything it can do. It's so simple to use and to get best picture quality. I highly recommend that. If you have any questions and comments, let me know in the comment section below, and then I'll meet you in there. Thanks very much, guys, for watching. If you want to check this Mission 1 Pro out, I'm going to leave the link in the description below as well as in the comment section. Check it out.